to our virtual series live. We are excited that you're able to join us either via Facebook or if you're being able to join us on Facebook Live. So today, I'm just gonna fix one thing. Today we're gonna be exploring our legal planning in the age of COVID. And I am very happy to have our presenter today, Jill Burzynski from Burzynski Elder Law of Naples, being able to present today, and she is our co-host. Welcome, Jill.
Well, thank you, Felicia, and thank you for setting this up. You know, I've been talking to a lot of our clients and trying to make sure that they feel comfortable in today's world getting their legal issues taken care of. And there's no reason right now that if you don't have things taken care of that you're not moving forward with that, because you know this can happen. If this virus can happen to any of us, and if we don't have our ducks in a row at this point in time, it's time to get them in a row. One of the things that I really want people to be thinking about is, you know, that at the hospital they don't allow any visitors, and so if you go to the hospital, if you end up in the hospital and you don't have your healthcare surrogate designation and living will and whatnot signed, you're going to have to speak for yourself. There isn't going to be anybody there to help the medical community along. So, you know, you need to make sure that you've designated the person to make healthcare decisions for you, so that, you know, if you end up there, this is a very unusual time where they're not allowing visitors in the hospitals or rehab facilities. And so it's something that you really need to think about, not just your healthcare documents, but in considering if you haven't done your planning, then that's a really important thing to be thinking about. Now, I do a lot of speaking engagements. I got to tell you, this is my first Zoom speaking engagement, and I really like my speaking engagements to be interactive. I would much rather respond to questions from the audience than to give a speech. So I know that Felicia has the ability to have you, how did you want to do that, Felicia, with the chat or with the, what's the best thing?
Does everyone know how to raise their hand under reactions? You can raise your hand and I'll unmute you so that we have a chance to give you the ability to connect with Jill. And then this way I can unmute you and you'll be able to ask your questions. And you might have the ability to unmute yourself as well.
Okay. So I think that we had a question. Was it Ellen? Can you unmute, Ellen?
Absolutely.
Yes, I do have a question. My daughter raised a question, and she is my designated healthcare surrogate in my living will and in my papers. Her question was this: if you go into the hospital and you should be put on a ventilator because you have designated in your healthcare wishes that nothing extraordinary, no heroic means are used to prolong your life if there isn't a chance for quality of life after that. So no last-ditch efforts in vain. He said, Mom, you're 82, well, I'll be 83 years old. What would happen if you ended up in the hospital? Would they put you on a ventilator or would they not? Would you?
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question.
Our designation, how does it fit into that, Mom? You better find out. So I'm finding out.
Okay, so that provision of your living will only kicks in if you're in one of 3 statutory conditions in Florida, and I'm assuming you have a Florida document.
Yes.
But, okay, so your Florida document would say if I'm either in a terminal condition, an end stage condition or a persistent vegetative state, that's when they would not use a ventilator.
Okay.
And so if they thought that you could get better from the COVID, then they would put you on the ventilator because you're not meeting one of those criteria.
Okay. Persistent vegetable state. Okay.
Persistent vegetative state or terminal, which is, you know, that you're in the process of dying, or end stage. So, you know, again, like I have a living will, and mine says probably what yours says, that, you know, I don't want to be on a ventilator if I'm in one of those conditions. But, you know, hopefully if I get this virus, they can put me on a ventilator and I can get better.
Another question. What's
Yes.
the difference between a terminal state and an end stage?
Okay.
That.
I'm gonna have to wing this a little bit because I haven't looked at the definition lately, but in terms of the end stage versus the terminal, the end stage, you know, would apply to something like Alzheimer's or dementia, where it's different from the terminal, which is like you have something that is going to cause your death. End stage, that this condition might not cause your death, but it's causing a low quality of life.
Okay. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, it's not going away and you're not going to have much quality of life.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there other questions? I have some things to say, so it's no problem if you don't have questions. One of the things that I want to say is that at our office, we've worked very hard to try to find a way to serve the population that we serve, which is the elderly, in a safe way. And, you know, I don't know if you all watch this like I do every day. There were 77 new cases today in Collier County. And so we all have to be careful about the contacts we're making with other people. And if I were meeting with people in my office, and then you came in my office, I might infect you without knowing. And so we're not meeting people in the office. Our doors are locked, okay? Now that doesn't mean that we're not here to help people. So if you want to set up an estate, so we do different things here. We do just estate planning, we do asset protection planning, and we do life care planning, and I'll explain what the differences are. But in any of those situations, we can meet with you over Zoom, and it's exciting to see all these people on Zoom because I know you can do it. So we can meet with you on Zoom, and we can talk about what your desires are, or what your documents are, and what changes you might need. And we're more than happy to do that. And so we can do it on Zoom. And so this is not putting you in any danger whatsoever. We then can email you your draft documents, you approve them, or, you know, we do changes and we can have multiple Zoom meetings to get everything right. But then eventually, when it comes time to sign, what we're having people do is we're first separating on the pages that you sign and the pages that the witnesses and the notary sign on different pages. And so we have you print out at your home, or if you don't have a printer, we will send you the parts that you're going to sign. And then you come to our parking lot, you keep your windows up, you call us on the cell phone, we come out of our office, we have 2 witnesses and a notary, and we sign the pages that we need to sign, you sign the pages that you need to sign, and then we marry them up. So it's completely contactless, and we want to keep it that way for the benefit of all of our clients. Because if I'm out there being in the public, I could give it to you. And so I want to keep everybody safe. You know, and I unfortunately have got to tell you, I have had clients get this disease. I've had people die with this disease. And so this is not, you know, this can happen. So I'm sorry, I'm got it. my phone was going off. So anyway, that contactless signing and doing of your documents is something that we can accomplish. You can stay safe. You don't have to feel like you can't do it until after, because I'm hearing that a lot. I'm gonna handle my things after the COVID crisis. Well, we don't know how long the COVID crisis is gonna go on. And waiting until after the COVID crisis, I don't know when you're gonna wait until.
That's true. That's very true. And we don't know if this is going to come back in the fall either.
Right. Well, and it scares me to think, we're opening up right now, and now we have that. As far as I know, the largest number of per day cases in Collier County before today was 28, and we bumped it by 77 people today. And is that because we're opening up? Is that because of what happened at the beaches over the weekend? I don't know. But I think it's a scary thing. Any other questions that I can handle? Yes. Can you unmute? Okay,
yes.
Great. Thanks.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, everybody. This is Ann Elwell, and I'm from Senior Care Authority. Jill, you started touching on it about, a lot of people have moved to Florida and they think they are all set because they have got all their documents in place from another state. And there are some differences, as you alluded to, in Florida. Will those documents be honored in Florida? That's the first part of my question. And the second part of my question is, I know in other states that I have lived in, they have either mulched or pulsed. Do we have that in Florida? Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to answer the second one first. No, we don't. The legislature has looked at that. They have not. We've not gotten pulsed yet. I think it's going to happen, but we don't have it now. And the first part of the question is, if you have documents from another state, are they going to be honored in Florida? And the easy answer is, if your documents were valid where they were done, they're going to be valid in Florida. Okay. Now, particularly with the healthcare directive, you don't want a directive from Connecticut and bring that to Naples Community Hospital and give that to them and have them interpret that. And the reason is that you want them to be looking at something that they're used to seeing. These might be very, quick decisions that they're going to have to make. And if you give them all of a sudden a document that is like, well, wait a minute, this is a Connecticut healthcare directive. How does it fit with Florida law? Hey, I better get the lawyers involved. Let's interpret this thing. And so that's the last thing we want happening with our healthcare directive. Your will, if it was valid in Connecticut, it's going to be valid here. Powers of attorney, you want the bank to honor it. And so you'd rather have them see what they're used to seeing. So there are a lot of attorneys who kind of make money on the idea that, oh, if you move to Florida, you've got to redo your documents. So I'm not here to tell you that, okay? But I am going to tell you that as it relates to the healthcare directive and the durable power of attorney, you want the most honored document, and you don't want the hospital getting the hospital lawyer to interpret your document. Not when you're at the last, you're on your last legs and, they need to make a quick decision.
And could I just ask one more question? Sorry. Sure. Like the folks, as we know, the COVID is rampant in long-term care facilities, at least across the country. For those folks that are in a long-term care facility, are they being transferred to hospitals, or suppose they have a do not hospitalize order? Is that sufficient and they can stay and be kept comfortable in the facility?
I think that the answer to that is it depends. Because it depends on whether the facility has the capability of isolating those people safely. I don't know if Rafi wants to chime in here. We've got a executive director here. He can, what would you say to that, Rafi? Can you unmute, Rafi?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think he's unmuted yet.
Oh,
there we go.
All
Nope.
these. How's that?
That's better. How are you doing, Rafi?
Hi, guys.
hi.
So do you want to speak to that, at least where you are at Opal?
I mean, right now, the directive that we've kind of followed as a company in referencing of, you know, sending somebody out to the hospital and then returning back to the community specifically, or new admissions?
No, I think that the question was, are you in a place where you could treat somebody who had COVID in a safe way?
I mean, our method is isolation. Obviously, in memory care, that's a stronger undertaking. That's
very difficult.
Very difficult. I would say that, you know, we have gone through the protocols with having somebody identified from a third-party provider at some point that was susceptible to having it. So we had a chance to kind of do a dry run. And we were able to do it effectively, but it really comes into play the type of resident that we have and their cognitive impairment and how mobile they are, that makes it challenging for, you know, at least us in our setting.
Felicia, can you address what Arlington does?
Yes. So everyone here, you know, we rely heavily on our medical director, Dr. Bruss. And so Dr. Bruss makes sure that anyone, you know, if someone's not feeling well, it's a case-by-case basis. If they do need to have a COVID test, or if luckily, we, knock on wood, are COVID free. So we haven't really come up against that at this point, but you know, if there are times where someone needs to get medical attention, you're going to want to do the best for that patient at that time and make sure that we can care for them. If it's beyond our ability to care for them in the skilled unit, we might have to send them to the hospital because they're more equipped. Now, on the flip side, when folks come into the Arlington from the hospital for rehab, we do have isolation rooms that are specific just for COVID. So they move into there for their isolation, and then they go from there into their patient room.
So that's a 2-week isolation?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
do they have to have 2 negatives before they go in?
So,
24 hours
yes,
apart.
Now they are, and that's changing things. So things are forever changing on a daily basis, as we know. But we still are isolating our folks to be on the safe side, because we do have a very safe environment at this time, and we want to try and keep that as tight-knit as possible, I would say.
Right. And I wanted to mention, so I talked about the signings that we do here at the office. We do have some clients who are in long-term care facilities, and we have done this too. And this, we've got to, you know, make sure that we get it exactly right the way it's supposed to happen. But what I intend for, if we go to a facility for a signing, is that the person stay in their room. This will only work on the first floor, but they stay in their room, they go to their window, we talk to them on the cell phone, and we witness through the window, okay? I have to admit that a couple of times that I've tried to do this, that didn't happen as seamlessly as I wanted it to, but we're working on that. So, you know, again, it's our intention to be as safe as possible and deal with the legal needs that our clients have, because, you know, again, the last thing I want as an elder law attorney is to infect someone. That would just be the worst. And I want to make sure that we don't do that.
It sure sounds like you're being very innovative to make sure you're keeping your clients safe. It's wonderful. It really is.
Well, we really, you know, I mean, unfortunately, and Sue's our elder care coordinator, and she's on here too. I mean, we have had several clients who have come down with this, and you know, it's a scary, scary time. Do you want to speak to that at all, Sue? I mean, what you've seen?
I think I'm okay. I'm unmuted now.
You're unmuted.
You know, as several of you mentioned earlier, you know, things are changing day by day. I've had clients go into the hospital with symptoms. I've had the hospital do the COVID tests and want patients discharged before the results come back. I've seen them want them discharged when the results come back positive and have been unwilling to do the required 2 negative tests for somebody to go into or return back to an ALF or a long-term care setting or even memory care. I think most recently, they are going to hopefully start following the protocols that were put in place a month ago. I have a gentleman right now who has been out of the hospital for a month and a half, and he has had 5 COVID tests and every single one comes back positive.
Yeah, this particular gentleman would like to move into assisted living, and he can't until he has 2 negative tests. He's asymptomatic now, but he's still testing positive.
He's still testing positive. Mm-hmm.
I spoke to a doctor friend of mine who told me that the studies out of China are showing that that can happen for months, that people test positive for months after, you know, recovery. And so, you know, I was watching on the news, and they said that the reason for that is that the tests don't really differentiate between live COVID cells and dead COVID cells. And so you may have fought off the infection and only have dead COVID cells in your body, but the tests are still coming out positive. So, I mean, this is and we have, you know, we try to help our clients. We had one client who has a family member in an assisted living, and they said, oh, my sister who's a nurse is coming into town, and we're just going to bring mom out for a couple of weeks. And, you know, we were like, you know, that's really kind of problematic, because then she's going to have to isolate when she goes back, and she's going to have 2 negative tests. And what if she gets exposed when she's out? So, I mean, these are tough times. These are tough times. Is there any?
I just want to say overall, I think that with the assisted livings and the memory care centers, I think that everybody got on board rather quickly and put the infrastructures in place to protect the residents. I know that there are places in different parts of the country where it's a significant problem in the long-term care or assisted living or rehab centers. I don't really see that here, maybe in one particular community.
Well, I know of one particular community that has, you know, quite a few. And I'm on a listserv with other elder law attorneys in Florida. And I, you know, said, wow, we've got a facility here that has something in the teens. And I got like bombarded. Well, one facility here has 92. You know?
Exactly. So
like, I think, you know, for the most part, we're doing pretty well in the long-term care facilities in Collier County. One thing that I think is important to talk about, and I don't know if anybody is in this position, but if you have a family member or if you have a spouse with dementia, it's important that you think about your estate planning and in addition, the planning for your spouse with dementia. And there is a way that if you do the planning ahead of time, if you die before your spouse with dementia, you can set up a will with a qualified special needs trust, and that the money that you leave through your will with a qualified special needs trust can go to your spouse with dementia and take care of only their special needs. So they would be able to utilize the Medicaid program and the money would be available to them for extras to make their life better than it would otherwise be if they were on Medicaid. So, again, right now is a time to be thinking about these things and getting the planning done ahead of the game, because, it very well can happen that the well spouse dies. And, with COVID, that's a real risk. And so, certainly if you are taking care of someone with dementia, those are things that you need to be thinking about.
Yeah, that's very true. I see we have a chat. Oh, we already got that.
I'm sorry, is there a question? I didn't
We
see
had
it.
a chat, but we already answered that.
Oh, okay. All
Purvis
right.
can.
Okay.
Now, I have a question for you. What happens if you don't have a will in place and you don't have all of your estate planning documents done, and you find out that your spouse has Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis? Does that affect that estate planning for you?
Absolutely. And so we get that a lot, Felicia. So first of all, what we have to look at, first of all, I guess the primary thing is how far along is the person in the disease process? Because just because you have dementia doesn't mean that you are legally incompetent. And so if you are still capable of understanding what you're doing, then you can still plan. But if people have waited till it's further along, which way too many people do because they don't want to confront the loved one with the disability, like, I know you're demented, kind of talk, then we have to look at how things are titled. And so let's say, Felicia, it's you and your husband. I don't even know if you're married, but you and your husband, and you have $500,000 in a bank account that's jointly held with him. Okay. And then he has an IRA and some other things. So the first step is, what is out there and how is it held? So if you have a joint bank account with your husband and he is diagnosed with dementia and he can't do documents, but he's also vulnerable to exploitation because he's on this $500,000 bank account, then you as the well spouse would be able to open an account in your own name and move those funds so that he's not at risk of spending it on the Prince of Nigeria, and the money is still there, and he hasn't done his documents, okay? But we've protected it. So, but in the worst case scenario, he's too far gone, and we've got an IRA, and we don't have a power of attorney. Then we're facing a guardianship action with the court. And so, that's certainly doable. It's something that we don't want to do. We do that as a last resort, but that can resolve the problem so that you would then have access to the IRA too, to be able to pay for his needs or do whatever planning there is. Now, sometimes we find that people have 20-year-old trusts that were done in Ohio. And those trusts were done at a time when there was a much smaller threshold for a taxable estate. And so many people did revocable living trusts, and they set these things up so that they wouldn't have to pay estate taxes. And that was the right answer 20 years ago. But at this point in time, you need over $11 million to need that kind of planning. And if you, let's say you have $600,000 and you have it split between two revocable living trusts, and your husband is incapacitated now, you've lost an opportunity because he can't change that trust anymore, and you as a spouse can't change that trust. And so, making sure that you have current documents that resolve the problems that you have today. So that those people had good documents 20 years ago. They had the right plan for 20 years ago. But that's not going to serve them well today. And so you want to try to do as much planning as you can. I mean, the first thing I would like is that when somebody gets a dementia diagnosis, that they, you know, get to an attorney to make sure that they, you know, do the planning while that window is open, because at some point in time, that window is going to shut. And so, you know, I can't say I would never, but like if you think about Rafi's memory care unit, I don't see myself going in, Rafi, and doing documents for your people. And you probably don't want me to, right? I mean, if they need that level of care, then, you know, it's probably too late to do the documents. And so, you know, getting ahead of this is important. So the will with a qualified special needs trust is a special tool. And, you know, not every attorney knows about this because it has to do with the Medicaid eligibility and long-term care planning. And so, you know, you want to make sure that you're talking to somebody who knows about elder law. So, you know, there are a lot of attorneys in Naples that do estate planning, and they're kind of all going after the Port Royalers, you know, the taxable estates, and they can make a lot of good money that way. And estate planning attorneys have kind of a tax focus. But again, in today's world, you have to have more than $11 million to need that. And so that's not typically my client. Other questions? Yes. Can you unmute Ellen?
I am gonna get her unmuted now. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. My original Florida living will and the documents, power of attorney and all, the originals are on file with my attorney in her office. I have copies of each of those documents. If 911 is called and I'm whisked off to the hospital, if I have enough time and foresight, and my kids know where they are too, to grab those copies of those documents, is that going to be honored at the hospital?
When did you do your documents?
I became a widow 12 years ago, so I changed everything to fit my new circumstances.
Okay. So in 2011, the legislature changed the durable power of attorney law, and the law specifically says a copy is as good as an original.
Right.
But before that time, it was not.
Okay.
So your copy should work at the hospital.
Right.
But I personally don't keep people's durable powers of attorney in advance directives. I don't keep their originals. I give those to my clients because I don't want there to be I mean, I can't tell you that a doctor isn't going to say, I want to see the original.
Right.
You know.
And yeah, on the other hand, don't a lot of people, perhaps if they have the originals, put them into a safety deposit box?
And then they're not accessible either. So I don't recommend that you keep your advance directive in a safety deposit box, but I also don't recommend that you keep it in my office.
Okay. So put it in your own cabinet.
Yeah. I mean, I keep people's original wills because let's face it, if you die, you don't need your original will the next day. You know, if you die on a Friday, you don't need the will on Saturday.
Right.
You know, Monday is fine.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. But a directive is a pretty immediate thing.
It could be. And again, I believe that they should honor your copy at the hospital, but you know, I can't control what happens at the hospital, that's for sure.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay. So, any other questions, or do you want me to kind of go into another kind of topic I want to talk about?
I wanted to know and have Sue kind of explain some of the things that she's done, because I know she's a wonderful advocate for a lot of her clients and your clients.
Okay. Well, yeah. So why don't you describe kind of the 3 ways that we help people now?
So you want me to talk about my role, or?
Well, you can talk about your role, and then the estate planning versus the asset protection planning versus
Okay.
life care planning.
Okay. So we offer several different products, if you will, or plans. One is, as Jill mentioned earlier, the estate planning documents. Another plan that is suitable to some people is asset protection. So when we meet with people, they may have something in mind for themselves, but then after a lengthy conversation, what they thought they had in mind, what they thought they needed, might be vastly different than what we would recommend for them. If I had a client that came in and there was one spouse was very, very ill and they just wanted estate planning documents, that would be something that Jill and I wouldn't recommend for that family. We probably would want to recommend a life care plan. The life care plan is something that is very comprehensive, and it includes my services as the elder care coordinator. My job then is to help that family navigate the healthcare system. So I take people on tours. I hone in on the areas or what their needs are. If they're able to live at home, what resources can be put in the home. If their needs exceed what can be provided in the home, then we begin to explore options. Assisted living versus memory care versus long-term care. I also see people in the hospitals, although not now, of course. And I help coordinate their discharge planning from the hospital to a rehabilitation setting. And depending on what their comorbidity is and their health problems, I might choose this rehabilitation center over another. I'm familiar with all of the Collier and Lee County services and resources, whether it be home health to assisted living to memory care. Most often, sometimes when a person requires long-term care, we will also do the asset protection along with the life care planning and ascertain benefits, such as Medicaid. We also pursue VA benefits if a person has served during specific years of wartime.
Right. So we really try to, get people what they need. And we, like Sue said, we'll make recommendations. And if people say, all I want is estate planning, I don't want your other services, that's all right. We will do just the estate planning. But, a lot of times people really don't know what they need. And one big example of that I can give you is that I get a lot of calls saying, I need a trust. My neighbor told me that they have a trust and that way they can avoid probate. And so I need a trust. And so like, how much is it going to cost for you to do a trust for me? So I have this conversation a lot. And so I try to back it up because they may not need a trust. If your primary assets are retirement funds and your house, we don't have anything to put in your trust. And yet, if my job as the attorney is just to give you whatever it is that you say you want or need, I'm not doing a very good job because, a trust might not be suitable for you. And so we figure out what you have, and then we try to figure out what your goals or needs are. Or, a lot of people who are facing long-term care have no idea what the future holds. And I'm not telling you that I have a crystal ball, because I don't, but there is sort of a trajectory that happens when people have certain illnesses, and we can prepare for that, and we can do the advanced planning. And that's not just paper. That's not just legal documents. And so, we try to work with people where they are, what they need, what they want, and meet their needs. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Other questions? One other thing that I want to say is I have an acquaintance I know who recently passed away. And while he was on his deathbed, his wife contacted me. And she said, I've been trying to get him to come to you for years, and he refused to come, and now he's in a coma. But I just found out that all of our assets are just in his name. But he did do a Suze Orman trust. And so is that going to work? And so what she is telling me is that they did a trust document, or he did a trust document, but he didn't retitle the assets into the name of the trust. And so now he has passed and everything is in his name alone. And so she's going to have to go through a probate administration. And if his fear was legal fees, he created legal fees by not having his wife on the accounts. And it would have been like free, if he had asked me, I'd say, put your wife on the accounts. And guess what would we be facing now that he's gone? Like nothing, taking the death certificate to the bank. But because he kept everything in his name and she didn't know it until he was in a coma, they're facing a probate administration. So probate isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's probably going to cost them $5,000 or something like that to resolve this problem now. And, it could have been nothing. And so not knowing what you don't know is the most important thing. I was telling Sue, I got an inquiry from a healthcare provider the other day saying, could I do a financial power of attorney for somebody in New York? And then she said, yeah, I just want to make sure that that power of attorney would work when they die. And powers of attorney die with the person. So she was like, oh, we want to make sure that I get a power of attorney so that if he dies, that it's going to be smooth. Well, this person clearly does not know what she doesn't know, because power of attorney is not going to solve that.
No, that's true. So we have a question coming in, and I'm not sure who this is because it's just listed as iPhone. So I'm going to unmute you. So you're unmuted. And their question is, shouldn't the advance directive be given to the primary care physician?
Yes. And the answer is yes. Absolutely. And the other thing that I struggle with my clients is, they do these documents and they name, say, one of their children to be agent under power of attorney or healthcare surrogate, and even successor trustee, but they don't want to tell their family members what they have. And imagine if you were trying to make decisions for someone without having the knowledge of what they have. It really is impossible. And so, if you're going to name your child, that child needs to be roped in with knowing what you have, what your plans are. If you want to stay at home, can you stay at home? I mean, many people come in here and say, all right, we've talked about it, and if I get sick, I'm just going to get home care in the home and stay at home. And I'd be like, okay, but you only have $250,000. Do you know what round-the-clock care in the home costs? Well, what? Well, it's over $200,000 a year. So how are you going to make that happen? And so, having those kind of discussions, it's important that if you're making decisions for somebody else, that if it's viable. is round-the-clock care in the home going to be a solution that works? And it will for a lot of people in Naples. Absolutely, they can afford it. But there's a lot of middle class here too, and that's not really a viable option.
That's a very good point.
Any other questions? Well, I want to say, that I really enjoy doing this, and I hope that this has been helpful. Are you sure you don't have any, this is your opportunity. You can ask legal questions. Has anybody learned anything at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Lots of head shaking. Absolutely. We
Okay.
can see it through, which is important.
Yeah. Well, we're here to help. It's Burzynski Elder Law, and if you think that you would like to inquire about our services, then you just give us a call. You'll initially speak to Mandy, who will get some basic information about you, and then I'll speak to you, and we'll try to figure out how long of an appointment we need to make with you on Zoom or telephone if we really want that. I prefer the Zoom because I like to see your reactions and, see what's going on, but we are doing telephone meetings for people who don't want to Zoom. And, we can make this happen and keep you safe.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. It's very important to make sure everyone is aware of these important initiatives that everyone should have, including myself. So I'll have to give you a call.
Yeah.
But everyone should have these documents, especially now, but even before now. So it's great to have these questions. They were very thought-provoking and I think helped a lot of us right now. So we truly appreciate that. Here over at the Arlington, we're going to be doing these virtual series a couple of times a month. So you'll see them pop up, and there'll be different topics just to help out with what's going on right now. But then it also gives us a chance to see some more people and get
I'm kind of lonely.
Yes, and learn new technology, which is where we're going, and we don't know how long it's going to last. So it's good to be able to get used to this type of platform.
Right. Hey, let me just, for fun, and Sue, you can chime in here. I think you know where I'm going with this. Our office has put in a new thing that every Friday afternoon at 4, we play Quiplash. Has anybody heard of Quiplash?
No.
Okay. It's a game that you play on Zoom. And so like somebody, has to buy Quiplash, which is like $15 or something like that. But you have your Zoom on, and then you use your cell phone as like a remote control. And so everybody's seeing this Quiplash screen, and they'll ask you like a funny question, and you write in your answer on your phone, and then they pit your answer against somebody else's answer, and everybody votes for the best answer. And it's quite fun. I've played it with people all over the world now because like we've got this started, and I play with my high school friends and my college friends, and so it's fun.
That's awesome. I've never heard of that
Thank you.
before. We're going to try it out.
Yeah, well, so we do it every Friday now for the office, and we've been playing Quiplash with each other. So
that's better.
Can't do happy hour or anything. So.
Yeah, that's better than Dress Down Friday.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I love that little tidbit. Just another way for us to connect with our loved ones and family and friends. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful.
All right.
Well, thank you all so much. We so
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
your knowledge. Everyone have a wonderful day. Be
Okay.
safe.
Stay safe.
Be
Right.
well. Thank you.